Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I am so grateful that you are here. It's Monday, May 9th, 2022, and this is the Starseed Ministry. Wow. Welcome back, everyone. Great to be here live with you. The chat is already active, and I'm really stoked about that. I am just going to put it out there that if you're here watching live, or if you're catching this on the replay, you should wish Emily Schroeder, hair artist, a happy birthday. I think that would probably really make her day. So happy birthday, Emily. I'll be sending you your own private message here at some point today and check in with you. So this is Yosemite that we're looking at here. This is just truly some eye candy from astronomy photo of the day, which is interesting because it's a very planetary, very large planetary cycles when we're looking at these massive natural landscapes here on our planet. So welcome back, everyone. If you're new to this channel, welcome. Thank you for being here. Hello to the Starseed Fellowship. Just a few administrative items to get out of the way before we launch in today's live stream broadcast. Wow. We're going to talk about the huge blast in the Schumann resonance that happened over the weekend. We'll do a little bit of a recap of this first quarter square with the moon in Leo. Look at today's transits, of course. And what the week has in store. I also have a reading to share with you today. So there's a lot to go through. And I'm sure that if you're watching this live, if you're in the chat, or if you're on the replay and commenting, that I'm sure you have lots to share with everyone just in terms of your own experience. It does feel like in a lot of ways that every day is an entire decade's worth of time. So I hope everyone is doing well, though, and taking care of themselves. A new step in evolution. I think that the Schumann blasting and staying really strong all weekend with very little solar activity to really speak of. I mean, there have been flares and magnetic filaments are exploding, but it's been quiet on the sun still, yet the Schumann is amplifying larger than it has in so long. So, we have a lot to talk about, and this new step in evolution feels like we've reached some sort of critical mass. And I know that it's been very isolating for people. I know that I've been struggling with my own feelings that way. And when I really just let go of the resistance to it and just let the feelings be and, take steps to take action when it seemed appropriate, but not also hyper focus on what's not there and my discomfort about it, what I found was people started surfacing and wanting also this interaction. And I talked about this in the Astrology report that I posted on Friday about this first quarter moon and the weekend. It was Mother's Day. So as far as I'm concerned, every day is Mother's Day, but still to all of the mothers out there, happy Mother's Day as well. So every day does feel like a decade of experience and healing or moving through mud. I definitely feel, man, it has been all of those things. And Alex K says, I'm also hungover from energies. Yes. It's not a terrible thing, right? I think we're all kind of in this refractory moment here where we're just like, ugh. And the moon moves into Virgo today. So it'll be important to do a bit of a recap and see how the energies of this Leo moon, what they're really bringing up in us, what is accelerating. Uranus has moved into a new degree of Taurus today. We had our Sun-Uranus conjunction last week, and that really shifted a lot of deeply, I think, some really... it's like the tectonic plates or something moving around with Uranus and the sun that I think is going to be way more present as we go through the rest of this eclipse cycle. So we do have a full moon lunar eclipse coming on the 16th. I do have a number of announcements, actually. I was getting real into the flow of everything, but let's get this administrative stuff out of the way so there will be no more distractions. So the first thing I want to share with you, just to remind you that I'm still offering these reading sales right now. The Cultivation, which is the eclipse season forecast, looking at your personal chart from May to November 2022. That's a 90-minute recording. I'm going to accept bookings for this all the way through May, so consider that. You can go to the website and book it. And a lunar transit forecast. This is much more of a condensed kind of looking at the upcoming lunar transit and getting a recording based on that. So both of these things are still on my website. You can book directly from there. But the other thing I wanted to share is I've added a new tier tier of subscriber status called the Catalyst Classroom, which is bi-weekly Zoom presentation and lectures that I'm offering on any number of subjects, all astrology related, starseed related, and it's really driven by the community as opposed to me just talking at you for yet another period of time, right? It is certainly me presenting material, doing the research, playing that role, but also stuff that we decide together, and then there's time for question and answer in an interactive classroom setting, right? And so I think we're coming into a phase now where we really want to start investing our energies into practical solutions, into deeper concepts of our evolving consciousness. And I do think a step has been taken. And we'll go into the astrology, of course. So I don't have any promotional material. You'd think I would. But if you're on my email list, then you already got the email with all of the promotional material. So if you're not on the email list, you go to my website, linked in the description box below. It even says email list, and it takes you right to the homepage, and you can sign up there, and that's where I announce a lot of this stuff, plus on Telegram. So let's make sure here that I don't have any more administrative things to offer. Let's get right into today's transmission. So just a little bit, take this in for just a minute, because these cycles on this planet that created this landscape have been in effect for so long, and it helps give perspective to the experience that we have, which is way more condensed and concentrated when we come into material form as spiritual beings. So it really does help to not only connect in with the energy of a natural setting like this, but it's ancient, right? It is cycles that have been progressing for so long, and it allows for a sense of grounding and perspective. And we still have all of this Taurus energy. In fact, Mercury is going to station retrograde this week, tomorrow, in fact, along with Jupiter coming into Aries. So, there's some pumping of brakes mentally, which I feel like this is part of the hangover, right? And then regressing in not a negative way, but more of an introversion, a proofreading. So if you have projects you're initiating or starting to consider, this is not the greatest time unless you know for a fact every duck is in line, every T is crossed, every I is dotted. Then maybe confirm some things around communication, right? Contracts, language, anything like that with Gemini and Mercury involved as well. But this is really a great opportunity for us to get an even deeper perspective. And this is something that I've talked about in the eclipse readings in general, and also just the forecasts for this eclipse. So this is Yosemite National Park. So what I want to share with you before I dive into the reading is, let me see if I can find okay. So I want to show this for you. This is estimated planetary K index. This is a graph showing the magnetosphere, and if it's calm, if it's disturbed, if we have solar storms, right? And so it has been kind of increasing over the last couple of days, meaning that there is some measure of bombardment or something that is exciting the magnetosphere and the ionosphere, right? Something that is exciting it and making it more dense, more pressure within it, which means there are more particles within it, right? So this has been very calm for a while now, days upon days, right? Last weekend we got into solar storm territory, but so far, it's getting more disturbed, I should say, getting less calm, but we're still kind of in the green, as you can see here, as of even today. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because we're going to look at the Schumann resonance. If I'm sure you've seen it, I did a post on Telegram about this already, so I'm not going to launch too much into the specifics. You're just going to have to go over there and see for yourself. But if we look at it, you can see right here. It amplified to about between 80 and 90 when it's usually sitting pretty low, like under 10. And it was sustained for a lot of the day, which was on the 7th. That was what, what was that? That's Saturday, right? That was Saturday. Yesterday was the 8th. Still some strong amplification, but nothing like Saturday was, right? I ended up at one point in the middle of the day just laying down. I had this heating pad on me and I passed out for 2 hours, like deeply in the middle of the day, like had dreams and everything. So I feel like that whatever this was, and it wasn't really in response to any solar weather at all, but it got very loud and very sustained for a lot of Saturday. And it's still pretty strong. I mean, you can still see the concentration in this graph of what would be amplification or a larger wavelength. So it's starting to dissipate, but we've been anticipating this now for a number of weeks, right? We can feel the buildup. We can see that the sun is going through its own solar maximum, and we know we're going through a part of the galaxy that is amplifying this as well, right? And so with the astrology and with all of these factors and what the sun is doing, there's something here. And I mean, we've been talking about this, it feels like we've been waiting for this something now for years, and some people a lot longer, decades even. But it does feel like there was this sustained amplification. Well, it doesn't even feel like it. We're looking at it. But what this means, what does this mean, right? This is something that is left up to our discernment and interpretation. But it does feel like that there is, the earth is getting louder, right? Her heartbeat is getting stronger and more sustained, right? Her field is getting larger and louder. And one of the things that I pointed out is that we're not seeing the same consistent drop in frequency with rays and amplification as I had been observing. It's something that's sticking out to me. Not to say that it's not doing it all, but something is shifting now. Something is getting stronger. We've reached some sort of critical mass. I mean, Uranus and the sun together was like a breakout moment. And maybe it wasn't as dramatic as we may have expected it, but perhaps that's just because we have been, this is more under the surface in a way. We are talking about Taurus, by the way. So, and on Beltane, no less. And so when you're talking about Beltane and you think about it symbolically as the splitting of the seed and the germ coming out of the seed, we're still in the dark, right? It's still patience waiting for the little sprout to come up above the soil. And so it still seems like from our perspective, nothing is happening, right? But you can look at all of these types of things. Plus, current events and, tracking the news cycle or whatever it is that you use as your data points for out there. Things are definitely happening now. So I just wanted to share this with you and just kind of see here that this is actual evidence that there is. Now, this could be anything, right? But this is significant. Like, what is going to sustain it for that long, for hours and hours and hours? That's artificial. So I'm also curious how people's sleep is lately. I know for me, it's been pretty rough, but the last couple of days, since Saturday, I've been sleeping well and deeply. And one of the things that changed is a device that was on is getting turned off now. And I noticed immediately, I was just like, oh, and that actually is something else I want to share with you. This is just a video that was posted by Magenta Pixie. You probably, well, not probably, but you may have already watched it or found it. And I thought it was interesting because we've been talking about this, this concept or this idea of like where these experiences are coming from. And I just thought it spoke to this, this situation. We've been talking about this in the fellowship in particular. I remember this coming up on Wednesday during our Zoom gathering, that this, is it intrusion? Are we having ascension symptoms? And I just think that she addressed a lot of the main issues in this, and there's a lot in here that I agree with. So I just wanted to share that if you haven't already seen it. So let's see here. I think that's all I have on those shares. So let's get into the reading. Yeah. 1 second here. Okay. I didn't want to cough right in your ear. So Bam. All right, so let's bring this up to the forefront here. So you can see with today's reading that, oh boy, the horizontal axis, right? What's happening kind of out in the 3D, because we really are bridging those two experiences of where we're at spiritually and energetically and where we're at materially. And this is what this reading always designates for us, or at least gives us some sort of direction or reference point. But you can see that these are all reversed, right? We have the Four of Swords reversed. We have the Four of Scrolls reversed. So these two are definitely connected to each other. And I'll explain at least what my interpretation is. We have the Star card reversed. Now remember, that's Aquarius. We just had a whole, yesterday and throughout today, the moon in Leo, which is opposite Aquarius. We're also going to have a moon opposite Saturn. This can be really, Eeyore-ish in a number of ways. So even when the Star card is reversed, there's usually some sort of guiding light here, but it does show that there's an error somewhere in the code, or there's some sort of false or delusional guiding light that we can get led astray by, but it's not all bad necessarily. And to remember that what is out there is, becomes more obvious in terms of its bifurcation. And our job is to really, converge these timelines together, or at least pull in that other aspect of the timeline. I don't necessarily agree that we're going to be completely, and we may be completely bifurcated. I just don't see that that's going, maybe temporarily that'll be the case, but in my personal opinion, I feel like wherever we're going, we're all going together or we're exiting. So maybe that's how it will be experienced, is that there are the smart cities, like this is one of the things Magenta talked about in that video. That's why I'm bringing it up. The smart cities, and then the, new earth, like completely organic community. I don't know if that's what's really going to happen. That doesn't seem to me to be the case, that there's more of a convergence into. And we've already gone through the bifurcation. That was the moon or the North Node in Gemini, right? The Gemini-Sagittarius axis seemed more like that experience, that we all went through the polarization, so we knew what it felt like. And now with Taurus, it's just about being in communion with the natural, what is. And we'll get into that with the astrology. So the point is here is that even with Aquarius in its retrograde or in its reversal, the Star card, there's something here to learn. And I think it's really just, the Eeyore-ish nature of a moon and Saturn opposition. The other thing to consider is that this is a much larger time frame we're looking at, rather than just kind of this daily in and out, but it's like a snapshot of what's happening right now. And so you also see that the Princess of Cups is reversed as well. And so what's interesting to me is you have this water quality with Aquarius, but it's an air sign, right? Four of Swords is an air sign. You have the Princess of Cups, which is all water and Venus, right? So there's a lot of Venusian energy that is reversed here, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Venus is now well into Aries, and Jupiter is about to come into Aries tomorrow, right? Ingress and into Aries, and so the dynamic of things is really going to start changing, and I think that a lot of the peace of mind that we experienced last month with that full moon in Libra that we had, I think is about to be disrupted big time. But it's really what has pulled us out of our old neural pathways, right? The Four of Scrolls. So these two, the Four of Swords, Four of Scrolls, same thing. They're related to each other in their reversals. So, but what's at the root here is finally our Eight of Roses upright, the Sangha, the community. This is our root, our family, right? Where our loyalties lie, and where we feel safe and secure as well, right? These smaller, intentional, very connected communities here. Like-minded purpose, right? Whatever it is, it's emotionally tethered because it's the roses. This is where our grounding really is right now, and which is interesting to me as we look at all of this air and transition into water that seems to be inverted in some way. So we'll get into all of these things in particular as we go through each of these cards and become familiar with them. So the Four of Swords, truce. If you look at the original Rider-Waite deck, this is, like a respite, right? This is like a mental respite where you come to a stable point. And it's represented by Jupiter in Libra. So keep in mind that Jupiter in Libra is opposite Aries on the zodiac. So we also know that Jupiter is coming into the sign opposite this. So if that's not going to disrupt a sense of respite or mental truce, I don't know what will. Let me find my notes here. Normally, this is a chance to reflect and get a rest from the fighting. You know what I mean? Where you find true respite and a sense of being able to see the whole picture mentally. So when it's reversed, you're either, oh, look at that, forced into isolation. No, nobody's been feeling that. Forced restriction, a cold truce, right? Where you're so not happy about it, but you just accept the situation as it is mentally. And like I said, Jupiter's about to go into Aries. That is the opposite of Libra. This is about action, initiation, expansion on potency and desire and the life force, right? And taking leadership position. So it looks exactly the same when it's reversed, which I think is very interesting. There's nothing different about this card when it's reversed, but so the structure of it remains. But the relationship that we each have to it is what is responsible for the reversal, or the reversal shows us, that we are out of alignment with this for whatever reason. And it has a lot to do with this Four of Scrolls, this karmic trench reversed. Because it's in this reversal that we fall out of these patterns. And right in our minds and our consciousness, this is where Mercury retrograde is absolutely coming into effect right now, is this Four of Scrolls reversed, the karmic trench. And then you have Jupiter coming into Aries as well, which is the opposite of what this card represents. And so there is, sometimes it takes shocking situations to disrupt those neural pathways, right? And to dump us out of the rut that we have been digging for ourselves into. And so we're falling out of that mentally. And again, Mercury retrograde, this is the perfect opportunity to really not get caught back into those patterns, but start establishing new ones. And this has a lot to do with, are you stuck in the political division of the chess game? Where is your imbalance, the mountain goat? But this Four of Scrolls is the causal factor, or the Four of Swords is the causal factor. So however you're looking at it, and remember, this is a causal factor. It's already been put into place and reacting and responding to what is energetically present, and that's what we manifest, right? And so what this is saying is that I think some of the delusions are going to fall away. This is a big part of this star card reversed, and then the Princess of Cups reversed. And this can go either way, right? You can go further into fantasy land and drag people down with you, or you have to just kind of grow up and put your big girl pants on with this Princess of Cups reversed. So, but I get the sense here that this is way more about tapping into a sense of leadership as well. So let's look at the star card. You can see here, right, the Aquarius card. This is this female figure that is dousing herself with starlight, but also returning it back to the planet. You can see this stardust kind of spiraling out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a 7-pointed star. That's pretty interesting. And so the star card in and of itself is a pretty beautiful type of experience, and it's number 17. Sometimes it refers to Jupiter in Aquarius. Other times it refers to Venus in Pisces, right? That we want something, the desire for something undefined, right? And we had that, Venus in Pisces, and we had that with that Princess of Cups when it was upright, right? That there's a desire for something inscrutable, undefined, right? All fluid and dreamy and allowing allowing for inspiration rather than having definitive boundaries. But now Venus is way into Aries now, is coming into the second decan of Aries after today. And so she is strongly coming into the virtue stage. So when this card is reversed, so first of all, actually, when it's, the general essence here is some sort of guiding light or a confidence in nature and a sensitive understanding of cosmic coherence, right? So Libra, for instance, with that Four of Swords, is balance through the application of some sort of knowledge, right? It's something that we choose to do in order to find that balance. In Aquarius, it's about using the feels and using that sensitivity to understand its balance. You're feeling the balance in Aquarius. So when it is reversed like this, especially at the heart of the matter, there may be a mistake in the code. There may be an error in the feeling that we become aware of. There may be destructive hope and illusions that are really at the heart of what we are defining as our guiding light, or our confidence in nature. So keep in mind too that, again, Leo is opposite Aquarius. We had the moon squaring the sun yesterday. We're going to have the moon opposite Saturn in Aquarius. And so I think it's just a difficult realization of the error in the code, or a sense of even a deeper sense of isolation or not being sensitive, right? Having a feeling of being blocked. But as much as the Saturn moon opposition can be really emotionally such a downer, I think there's a lot to be gained from that situation in terms of transmuting these emotional energies. So if we were to just take this full, this consciousness on its own, this horizontal consciousness of cause and effect, I mean, you can see that people's illusions being shattered and just going into full escape mode, right? Because of something that, some sort of event that challenged one's mental respite, right? And we did, like I said, we had that last month with our full moon in Libra. And if we have been aware of these processes now and have been tuned into our own spiritual evolution, then, even if this is painful, it is also still guiding us in the right direction by our dissonance as opposed to resonance. So the Eight of Roses, finally, the Sangha, right? The spiritual community, the family, the any kind of group that connects you with others of like-minded purpose and activity, kind of like the Starseed Fellowship, for instance, right? Or this could be new friends coming your way. This also, like I said earlier, people starting to reach out and wanting to make connection, wanting to establish that connection. So that could also be this energetic root that it represents. And this is going to help with when you really tap into this space, whatever it is, whoever it is for you, it'll really help. It will find help with your current directives. And you might reawaken some karmic relationships or some past life talents or disciplines. And this is really where our power is coming from right now, the Eight of Roses. So whatever has been established for you, I mean, and this is also your inner power and your inner sense of stability and emotional security as well. It may be in some sort of faith, or it may be in some sort of custom or tradition, or just your spiritual family, right? Your soul tribe, your galactic family, all of these things. It's really about how this brings this out for you. Now, we talked about the karmic trench already. This is way more what's going on in the conscious awareness in our minds. The fact that the Four of Scrolls is reversed. This is a pretty good indication of that Mercury retrograde, that's for sure. And again, you've fallen out of the trench. All of the resources to plant seeds for a new harvest are here now, because you're not wasting your time digging an endless trench. You may have had a sudden or significant change in your life that kind of threw you out of these karmic patterns. It's usually those difficult situations that do that. So it's going to be Mercury retrograde that is so crucial to being able to not fall back into these patterns, to come and get that perspective when Mercury retrogrades back into Taurus. and is in a trine to Pluto retrograde, again, in conjunction with the Pleiades. And then Mercury is going to retrograde back to 26 degrees Taurus. This is the fixed star Algol. This is where the full moon will be eclipsed on the 16th. So there's something, again, going back and addressing this Pleiadian aspect of being in communion with the natural cycles and adjusting to what needs to be released. And one of the, well, actually, this is astrological, where Pallas Athena right now is moved into Taurus, and she's actually in a degree today in early Taurus. It's 4 to 5 degrees Taurus, which is actually a widow standing at an open grave. And there's a lot of Buddhist ideology, Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist spiritual knowledge that's embedded in Taurus, because it's said that, the Buddha was a Taurus, right? He was born with a sun in Taurus, which kind of makes sense to me. And the widow standing in an open grave is part of that. It's part of that recognition in the sign of Taurus that it's with the when you're in material form, it all will come to decay, right? And what's the opposite of Taurus, which is Scorpio, right? You actually experience this process in Scorpio, which is where the full moon lunar eclipse will be in Scorpio. So I also get a sense here, and there's Pluto involved with this trine from Mercury retrograde, and then you have Algol, the head of Medusa. This is all stuff we're going to cover in our first Catalyst classroom, which is going to be on Wednesday. We haven't determined our time yet, but it's a Zoom. Then you get access to the replay, and that's part of a new subscription tier on Subscribestar. You can link to that in the description box if you're interested. But how do you not fall back in, right? And part of that is recognizing that there are things, the strategy and the wisdom involved with recognizing when things are done and when they've run their course, right? Because when it actually is time for you to release it, which is the end of Taurus, it seems like, then you are prepared to do so because you have already identified why this is important and the strategy and wisdom of being able to accept that all material things and social bonds will decay in order to bring in a new cycle. So the karmic trench we're coming out of it, and it may have been very shocking with Uranus, maybe not, but it's allowing us now to form new neural pathways, like truly form new neural pathways, which is why it's important that we are, being aware of who it is that we feel safe and a sense of like-minded purpose with, because these are the places where we're going to work out a lot of these new neural pathways, right? That's a big part of the third and the fourth house. The third house are those new neural pathways, but without a space, without a sense of emotional security, then it's that fifth house of Leo that's, that is narcissistic rather than confident, right? So like I said, Princess of Cups, right? When she's reversed, she's normally this is intuition, sensibility, tenderness, fantasy, all of those Venus and Pisces things that we just had. So when it's reversed, castles made of sand, right? Sinking into the sea of irrationality. That's pretty specific phrase, may sink with the delusion and bring others with her, right? I do see this as a very strong potential for some people, faking abusive feelings, being selfish, being, deviant. You may be flattering people and not being legit, right? Because it's just this, just giving of all of this energy to other people, boundaries and are very loose and fluid and watery, and you're just offering, right? It's such a beautiful card, but when it's reversed, she's really just, out to sea. So that's the other thing too. She is us, right? We are identifying as individuals or other people in our life as this Princess of Cups, especially as Venus has come out of Pisces now and is very much connected to this star card as well in reversal. And so it's a little bit more difficult to maintain these feelings of compassion and just really beautiful, dreamy, fantastical energy when your delusions are, being brought to the light, basically. So, but that's, again, that's part of falling out of the karmic trench. So let's look at some of the guidance around this. Number one, Archangel Raphael, a couple things to mention here. So Archangel Raphael, in terms of astrology and fixed star astrology, he is the ruler of Regulus. This is the last degree of Leo in Western astrology, okay, which is what we're having today. The moon is going to cross over this point today, and then move into Virgo by the end of today. So this reversal usually indicates, when you see Archangel Raphael in a reverse position like this, that there is some healing that needs to happen. There's still a split. There's still a need to heal some sort of emotional injury, some sort of rift. And when we're talking about the Eight of Roses, I would say we're definitely talking about the family and emotional and family-oriented healing that's necessary. And maybe that there are other people in your family that are going to need this healing. Maybe there is a need to call Archangel Raphael forward. Now, what's interesting about Raphael being the archangel of Regulus, right? The royal fixed star Regulus, which is in the Leo constellation and is in the last degree of zodiacal or tropical Leo. It is through the heart and through the release of our own vital self and energy that we're able to really offer this type of healing, or even accept it, right? Now, Tiger, I think, first of all, I get all kinds of Lyran Starseed vibes from this, right? This very powerful feline energy. You're being called upon to provide leadership. So what I got is, yes, there's a sense of, in your immediate family, whatever it's, whoever it is, and there's multiple groups that this may be for you, right? There may be professional groups, there may be friend groups, there may be soul groups and spiritual groups and family of origin, your current family, right? Like if you're married and have children or anything like that, that's all Eight of Roses. But I do get a sense here that many of us are going to be called upon to really be available when there is an emotional or physical condition that needs to be healed. If there is something troubling us and we may not realize it, other people may not realize it, open your heart and ask for help, right? This is what Archangel Raphael is representing in its reversal, to open the space, to release the energies so that there can be healing. The Tiger is talking about being an effective leader, and it means knowing how to balance action and yielding and stillness. So pay attention to the dynamics of the group and your inner voice so that you can act in accordance with your own guidance. Take calculated risks based on your convictions in that situation, which is a very strong Lyran starseed trait. Taking calculated risks based on convictions. Others are looking to you for guidance. Make decisions based on the greatest good and follow your own voice when others disagree. And it's important that we're responding with strength and compassion. So I do suspect that there is healing on a mass level that is about to be initiated and is really going to challenge the people around us. And I think if you're a starseed and you identify with that mission and a light worker, then you know that it's time that you'll be almost expected in some ways to hold the space for whatever this represents for you, because there is healing. And this may even just be for yourself, right? Know when to hold them and when to fold them. And that's what the Tiger really represents. And the Lyran starseeds, big part of what they're up to, right? And what they're very capable of. So the goat as well, there's our Capricorn messenger here. Now, it usually means there's something out of balance, right? It says right there, do whatever you need to do to correct it. Because the mountain goat can't afford to be unbalanced, right? I mean, the mountain goat is scaling this mountain or this cliffside or this, rocky terrain with oftentimes very little room to deviate. And so it's got to be focused. It needs to put one foot in front of the other. It can't be off balance, has to be strong, committed. All of these, again, Lyran traits, because it's related to Capricorn. Of course, this is where Pluto is. And so, and in its retrograde is absolutely just, It's been gnarly, and is going to rule this full moon lunar eclipse. It's not going to be easy, and the part that's most challenging, I think, is the fact that it is an eclipse, and we're looking at a cycle that is elongated for the next 6 months, which is why I offered the cultivation reading, because what we are attempting to bring forward, what we're cultivating for ourselves in terms of value, resource, wherever you find Taurus in particular in your chart, it's going to take some time, and it's going to take some real trust and really allowing for these deep inner processes to do their work, which can be very frustrating when you're like, I don't see any evidence, or you're feeling more indolence, more a sense of hopelessness, right? Feeling the isolation, feeling like, but never fear. Jupiter is coming into Aries, and Venus, like I said, she's about to move into virtue stage of her time in Aries. So the mountain goat, besides the fact that this is about being out of balance, is notice how you feel when something is out of balance. I cannot stress this enough, to actually, observe and step back and be the observer of your own feelings, and be able to identify, okay, when things are out of balance, these are the types of behaviors in my body. This is kind of basic when they teach like cognitive behavioral therapy, when you do anger management. I mean, this is about learning your bodily triggers. The same goes for being able to feel when you're in and out of balance within your own body, is to be aware of these triggers. And this can be very physical, right? This can have a lot to do with your health as well. In fact, in the book that is the reference book for this deck, it talks a lot about physical nature as well. But we are looking at the flipping us out of the karmic trench. And so it's in the flipping out that we are able to see things from a much more observer position, because we're not deep in our rut anymore, and we can feel what's out of balance. Now, the chess game is just the reminder, right? Are you still playing the chess game? Are you going to go back to it? Are you still involved with the political and social conflict that this represents in your life? Whatever it is, deceit is present. And you may not be certain about everyone's motives and intentions. Well, that seems to be like, the graduate level work we've all been doing over the last how many years. So this is like, take an emotional step back, be the observer again, and notice what's happening instead of getting embroiled back into the chess game. Chess is great, right? And it does actually help with strategic thinking, non-linear thinking. Boy, if there's, chess, and there's others as well, but chess is a great game. I mean, it's linear in the sense that it's a back and forth, but being able to conceptualize all of the moves at once in this non-linear way, I think it's very helpful. I really struggle with a lot of that. And so especially visual, spatial dimensions, this really helps. And it also helps you to think non-linearly as well, but it does keep you trapped in the Capricornian checkerboard matrix. And you just want to be aware how much of this is leading to your out of balance, which is being in a battle, right? And knowing that, people are serving their own agendas in this battle, and, identifying if you're self-responsible and you're going to direct the course and flow of your life based on somebody else's chess game, or if you're playing the chess game, there's nothing wrong with that. Just know that that's what you're doing, and know how that but I would say, if you're doing that, then you have to be fully into that and just accept that you're not getting out of that polarity if you're doing that. This is, but I would say this is more about now that you've been dumped out of in your mind, and this, again, Mercury retrograde is going to be a big part of this. In your mind, getting you dumped out of that mindset is going to really allow you to see, how you've been embroiled in this conflict, how you can step out of it now, maybe just step back and be the observer of your own imbalances, the imbalances in the physical world, and how your own thought processes have been contributing to this experience, and how getting dumped out of it is so painful, but a blessing. It may not be as dramatic for some as others, but the Mercury retrograde is still very much here. So, and you can see emotionally that it's really going to, it is really going to challenge people. And Princess of Cups reversed is not a very mature response. And it's important to remember that, and remember your task of leadership, if that's your task, or catalyzing other people, or just holding space. It just depends on who you are and what you're here to do, and that's pretty much about it. And you are the one that directs the course of that, so you decide. But difficult days continue, of course, but I think we're getting so much support now. I don't even know. I mean, how could we not? How could we not? I feel like we'd be all, like, it would have all happened already, right? Don't you think that it would have all happened? Like the prison planet thing would have happened already if, maybe it is about the slow burn, right? Maybe it is about being the frog in the pot of boiling water. But I feel like there's just been too much that has allowed us to, not even allowed us. There's just been a lot of support for our own progress. And I think that we have reached this critical mass. And now it's just a matter of, going through the process. So we're going to look at the astrology now, as we always do, because that's at least the language that makes sense to me. I'm going to check in with the stream here real quick and see how people are feeling. Leo moon was conjunct my Pluto, and Leo, talk about shifting old stuff. It's exhausting. Oh my gosh. The Pluto and Leo people, I feel for you. Wow. You're going to get it. Like, it's going to be a big impact when Pluto comes into Aquarius, for sure, because that's a whole generation of people that are about to embark on their soul's evolution, right? I was flying all Saturday. It was insane. Yeah. It was definitely a crazy weekend, guys. Like I said, it rained here. It was pretty crappy weather for most of Saturday. And so I just took that as like, you know what? I'm just going to be really still. And then Sunday, I was up at 5 o'clock and I was out in my yard and my garden at 7:30 and like doing all my hardscaping, installing my irrigation, right? I was like getting everything ready to put all the seeds and starts in the ground this week before the eclipse. So it was a crazy weekend. I still feel like I'm flying. My gosh. You can probably just tell in the way that I'm presenting material. So let's look at the astrology here. So we did have our first quarter moon in Leo that was square to the sun. That was last night. So you can see here that what we are looking at is the first real transit of the ninth, which was last night, as you can see. 3:30 Eastern Standard Time, is the moon in a T-square to her own nodal axis. And the sun is going to actually meet the Rahu, or the North Node, this week as well. There's a lot of big transits this week besides Mercury and Jupiter coming into Aries. The sun is going to meet Rahu. The sun will then come into a square with Saturn. And so you can even see this grand square, grand cross that is. It's loose, but it's still very present. And this is along the same basic Atlantean galactic degrees that is late Leo. So we've had this already come up in earlier astrological time frames within this, winter coming into spring, right? This grand square along these same basic axes. So this is going to be just kind of a return back to that again, and it's about transmutation. So before we get to the opposition of the moon and Saturn, let's look at this T-square with the nodes. And, I think it's important to realize that we want to express and demonstrate our own virtuosity, right? Everything that we have put into getting to this place. And it's good to know where Leo is in your chart, because this is the area that this sensitivity with the moon here is going to be the most expressed. So for me, for instance, it's in my 7th house because I'm an Aquarius rising. So, and you look at all the other things that are present, right? Which is like a trine to my natal Mercury in Sagittarius. That's, you start to make these connections and look at them as symbolic threads that you weave together into your own soul story. This is what we do in the personal readings, and what I am attempting to, and encourage and catalyze and facilitate as we go through the Starseed Fellowship, and specifically the Catalyst Classroom. That's really where I want to get into the bulk of the facilitation aspect. But we feel sensitivity to really demonstrating like what it took to get here, right? And that is, there's a lot of confidence there, but there's also a sense of ego that you have to have in order to do something that, for the most part, the average person wouldn't be able to do, right? It's in a circus, there is a woman riding this bareback horse, and it's a dangerous skill, right? She's doing all these acrobatics and all of these types of performance aspects while she's, if you've ever ridden a horse at all, and especially if you've ridden a horse without a saddle, it is not exactly a safe type of experience. And so this is an individual that has put the time in, and I think we're feeling that. And the T-square to her own nodal axis has to do with pulling us back into the current trajectory of our soul's evolution right now, which is very much about resources, and shared resources, and power. Whereas we're feeling like, how we have each individually, and feeling that sense of like dramatization or display of how we've gotten here, right? And it could potentially lead us to kind of, how do I say this without being totally crude? We have to be mindful that that we're still on a soul trajectory that has to do with inherent value of worth of time, right? That's the thing that nobody wants to, deal with, really, is about time and the material, and what, the value that we each experience as being seasoned, right? And it's in this moon, this T-square here, that I think, just reminding ourselves really of what it has taken for each of us to get here, and whatever way, especially with the moon, we just might feel, we just might want to express this feeling somehow, or find a way to demonstrate this somehow, and it will challenge us because, just because of the nature of the T-square. So when we move forward to the full moon, or the moon opposition to Saturn here, I think is, 24 to 25 degrees. There we go. 24 to 25 degrees. We see this is now getting into galactic territory for sure, right? This is Atlantean galactic degree at 25 degrees Leo. You have Saturn that is opposite at 25 degrees Aquarius. This is Pleiadian, right? Both of these are in a square to the Pleiades, by the way, so it's not a very resonant location. These two aspects of Leo and Aquarius, they are in a square to the Pleiades, and what they are resonant with is the Orions, right? The Orion story here in Atlantis. And, the quick rundown is that Atlantis was an ET colony. It was Pleiadians came back and did it again after Lemuria. Come back to Earth and set up a colony, maybe not living amongst the humans as much as they were, but it was a very distinct colony for off-worlders, and maybe many different races, so to speak. But then the regressive Orions got involved, and this is where the generation of technology that could harness incredible amounts of power without the spiritual evolution to go along with it is what, led to Atlantis, and its eventual fate. And so it's about transmuting that energy, and Saturn has just been, pretty strong and firm in this particular contribution here, and the way that it is providing a structure, which is that there are aspects of our holistic mind, for instance, that are, or our own feels, or intuitive nature that is evolving beyond normal evolution as a result of human civilization, as a result of technology, as a result of being able to tap into something more than the individual, right? It is the resonance of the entire symphony that is able to create or to facilitate this incredible experience. I mean, any music is a great way to think about this, because when you're listening to a certain, like a band that you really like, or a symphony, or any type of collective music experience, the creation and the experience of it, you have those very moving moments. This is what this transmutation really represents, where Saturn is. And so, but it's a taskmaster. It's like the conductor. If you've ever been in this situation, then you know that there are some conductors have their own or the metronome. That's even more accurate, right? The metronome, that is Saturn, right? The relentless ticking of the clock, right? There is no getting around this. It is you that has to conform. And this can be the Borg, or this can be a harmonization in a way that takes us to the next level, right? Remember, Uranus rules Aquarius. And so it has been that taskmaster in a lot of ways. And the moon opposite of it in this moment is recognizing within us that we have a long journey ahead, and that we need to tap into all of our emotional reserves. And what I think is interesting about this, and why this opposition seems so important today, especially because of isolation that people are feeling or are reporting, and how much of an opposition between the moon and Saturn represents these types of experiences, is that we've been kind of, we have been kind of, how do I put this? We have, I think, been kind of forced into where our reserves come from, right? And acknowledging that we only have our own reserves to get us across this huge desert, right? And then we do have it, and it's embedded within us emotionally. It's Saturn, I think, that it's like, it can be really difficult for the individual voice to feel heard and acknowledged when you're blending in with everything else. But Saturn has been very clear here that this is where our boundary is, right? And this is where we are going to transmute, is in the collective resonance, by blending and harmonizing as one voice, right? That's where it's coming from. And the more that we want to entirely pull ourselves in and isolate ourselves, or make it all about us, like I'm the only one that can do anything, I feel like that's going to add to our feelings of isolation. Not to say that we are not responsible for our individual voice and resonance to add to the situation, but if we don't at least bridge the gap somehow, I feel like that it's just going to lead to a sense of you will either get, how do I say this? Seems to me that we will either go even more into our own reserves and kind of block out everything else, or we'll find ourselves so conformed to the social bandwidth as a whole because of Saturn, and it's so dense there, and it's so relentless in the ticking of the metronome, that it kind of forces us along, right? Or you just give up, right? You stop playing with the orchestra, you stop playing with the band, you pull everything back in and kind of get a little bit of like a hoarding mentality with your own resonance, your own voice. And I think it's just important that we just realize that this dynamic has already been at play already, and has a lot to do with the way that this first quarter moon is really going to unfold the rest of this week leading up to our full moon lunar eclipse. So if you still are feeling this way, this isolation or this kind of like Eeyore feeling, I mean, I think it reached its peak here with this moon in Leo and is going to start dissipating. And there are other relationships here that that are just as relevant. So the moon is going to quincunx. It's going to come into a quincunx with Pluto. It's going to come into a, let's see here, with Pluto and Jupiter in different, from different angles. It's still going to have this in conjunct with both of them. Let me get this by the end of today. Well, this afternoon, really, right? So you're looking at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. So there we go. You have the quincunx here to Pluto retrograde, and you have one right after that to Jupiter at the very last degrees of Pisces. So make sure here. There we go. Okay. Now, as we feel this, you know, basically our energy, our vital energy is growing and rising, and it may, in that opposition to Saturn, feel like, oh, it's just not enough. And maybe we do have to kind of pull back in emotionally and be more, you know, not give away all of our resources either. But in this quincunx to Pluto, now retrograde, that has just been ruthless with so many of us in terms of going back into these structures that we call reality. We may feel like that there's this, there's part of us that's ready for rebirth into the human form, right? We're making the transition from Leo into Virgo at this point, right? This is Archangel Raphael. This is the fixed star Regulus, 29 degrees Leo, 30 degrees Leo. And both of these are in a quincunx to Pluto and to Jupiter. So you have these larger planets, one having to do with death and rebirth. Jupiter is the expansion of our resources and higher wisdom and understanding and luck, good luck. And coming into Aries, I mean, is about to take that archetypalization, that visualization of the big picture, right? The full pattern of meaning, and bring it into a seed point and start to initiate the desire to grow it. And Jupiter just holds the space for it to happen, right? Keeps the template of the meaning that has been the spiritual meaning in particular with Jupiter in Pisces this whole time, and is now bringing it into the template, into the tiny seed point of a new creation. Just like we talked about the karmic trench, right? We have now dumped ourselves out of the trench, and there are new seeds that are ready to be planted in for a new harvest, right? A whole new essence of being. A whole new creation. Now, Venus has been going through Aries, like I said, and has been kind of laying the groundwork for this, and has been very, she goes after what she wants in Aries. Actually, she attracts to her what she desires, what she wants. There's a lot of passion. There can be some anger being expressed through the body, right? With Venus and Aries, a rage that comes through the body as well with Venus and Aries. But now that Jupiter is about to come into Aries, I mean, the big picture is going to support the template that is embedded in this new seed of creation. So we also understand that there is something about to be released, this new step in evolution. The quincunx to Pluto and the quincunx to Jupiter in these moments before Jupiter moves into Aries, before the moon moves into Virgo, and brings this rebirth into some sort of emotional actual form, right? Some sort of actual emotional hygiene, some emotional organization, a sense of intuitive or energetic hygiene as well, and resource, right? What are we going to do with these emotional resources? It can seem very daunting with this moon in Leo, and they're like, hi, I'm over here, I'm just having my rebirth experience. Oh, and Pluto and Capricorn retrograde, and Jupiter at the very last degrees of Pisces. That is like the great stone face, right? And you're going to align ourselves with this large overall experience that's being brought into a new step. And I think it can seem daunting in relation, but it's not completely it's not completely in cross purposes, right? It just requires a little bit of adjustment, right? Just a little bit of adjustment in this moment. And there may be some wild card opportunities later today that will provide these opportunities to adjust ourselves in these quincunxes. So as Pluto retrograde is like destroying everything within us now, right? Starting to really excavate all that has been destroyed and really starting to create the space truly for something new to grow, something new to unfold, and that's going to be a lot more, I think, obvious when Pluto starts to come into Aquarius, but which is opposite Leo, right? So there's this new part of us that's coming forward that really wants to be released. And remember, Archangel Raphael was retrograde. This really does suggest to me that there is a really big emotional healing that is truly on its way right now. And yes, the quincunx to Jupiter at the same time at this last degree, this unsealed letter, this release here, I think is to get, to allow for these past experiences to move through us and to inform our rebirth in some ways emotionally, that yes, it's still in a misalignment, but just kind of, we don't want to take what we don't want into this next cycle with Jupiter and Aries. And so release, right? Whatever it is, it's a release of energy. It's a combustion release of energy. It is something that can't be held back, right? If you try to stifle it, it is still going to pop the lid off. That is the unsealed letter of 30 degrees Leo. And that is Archangel Raphael, that it is through this process that real healing can actually start beginning, is letting the vital energies move through you as a vessel in order to be reborn. So like I said, it can seem very daunting with, Jupiter and Pluto, and there's just little us and the moon, but this is where we want to find our emotional adjustment so that we don't want to stifle our own voice and our own rebirth and our own vital energies coming forward into a form that can actually we can dedicate ourselves to. It can seem, like I said, it can just seem overwhelming, but at the same time, it's very important that we don't lose sight of our voice and how important it is to the overall process. So that's the astrology for today, May 9th. Now, like I said, as we go through the week, we're going to see that Mercury, tomorrow, in fact, Mercury will be stationing retrograde at 4 to 5 degrees of Gemini. We are going to see Jupiter come into Aries by the end of tomorrow. This is the 10th. You can see here that the moon in Virgo is going to be opposite Mars. It's going to be opposite Neptune. It's going to come into Libra and be opposite Jupiter this week as well. So a lot of, the feels in terms of Virgo, right? This sense of dedication and the sense of purification, of meticulousness, of details, of getting into the medium of our own growth and using it and taking what we need in order to grow and to evolve or to heal, where you have all of this all this really large energy, and Mars in particular in Pisces really outputting in terms of the collective unconscious. So this is going to really challenge where our boundaries are, and I think that that's going to be important. And let's see here, and you can see this is a kite actually, and so we'll get to that. Oh, maybe we won't. That's right. I'm not doing the dailies anymore. So you can see that the sun comes into a conjunction with the North Node opposite the South Node on the 12th, which is Thursday. That is actually a great segue into the closing of this. And so the sun, by Thursday, we have illumination, identification with our soul's trajectory, with the head of the dragon, right? This is the real value of time and natural processes. So remember that picture of Yosemite that was at the beginning here. That gives good perspective about the time it takes for real value to unfold in relation to pressure, in relation to heat, and just seasoning, right? It's seasoned. a lot of different things that we enjoy are the result of a long-term, you know, catalyzation in some ways of a new form. So by the time we get to Friday, let's see here, the sun is going, yeah, look at this. This is incredible. So Friday the 13th. I didn't even realize that. Friday the 13th, we see that the sun is going to come into a sextile with Neptune. He's going to be in a square to Saturn. And the nodes are also, let's see, Mars is starting to come into a relationship with the moon's nodes at that point as well. We see Lilith at the last degrees. It's retrograded back into Orion territory as well, and is going to be part of this picture. So there's a lot to talk about. So what I'm going to do actually is, first of all, let you know that there will be no Friday video. There will be content that I'll post for the full moon lunar eclipse. I will not be back until the 17th. Which is next Tuesday. I will stream the Starseed ministry on Tuesday instead of Monday. I will remind you of that at some point so you know. Monday the 16th is our lunar eclipse, so I'm going to have a forecast for the Scorpios out this month, or for this eclipse. I'm going to have content for the week that is posted, and we'll have our first Catalyst classroom on Wednesday, and we're going to be talking about all the aspects of this full moon lunar eclipse in terms of the Pleiades, in terms of the fixed star Algol, and the mythology behind Medusa and Algol, and a subscribe star. The link is in the description box below. Takes you to the profile on subscribe star, and you can subscribe. I'm like 200 steps ahead of my own voice right now. So you can subscribe there to the Catalyst Classroom. It's $5 a month. It's covering my time. It is covering the subscription fee for Zoom as well. And yeah, supports this work as well to get out to a larger audience. So thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. I hope that you are recovering from the energy hangover like I am. I'm not sure if I'm doing the best job right now, but I think we're going to be called to step up very soon. And so because people's peace of mind and respite is about to be disturbed yet again. So I love you guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for... Thank you for humoring me as I'm having issues. This is what happens when you talk all the time, or you're a professional singer, professional broadcaster, right? You really have to take care of your voice. And so I got to get better about that too. Thanks, guys. I love you. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you for being here for the Starseed Ministry. And I will... I'll see you next week on the 17th. We'll be live on Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern for the Starseed Ministry post-lunar eclipse. Take care, everyone. Bye.